Hi there. Welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Josh Mansfield. I'm a teacher and producer of the podcast here at The Demon. And joining me today is Steven, who is here to tell his success story after he's crushed the LSAT. Steven, welcome. Super glad to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I'm really excited for this.
So let's start. The question that everyone always wants to know, what did you score on the LSAT?
I scored a 178 on the October 2025 LSAT.
What is the feeling like when you get that score back?
Relief, mainly. Like I took the test and I felt pretty good about it.
hmm
And, during the 3 weeks after, you kind of progressively get a little more anxious about it. Like, oh man, maybe
Yep.
I did mess something up here or there. But when you get the score back, it obviously feels just like a lot of relief and, just overall good feeling.
Oh, absolutely. And I imagine a 178 especially. I mean, that's a killer score. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where did your LSAT journey begin? What was your initial cold diagnostic score, as we call them?
160.
160. Okay. So you're already starting. When you got the 160, did you, hopefully you've heard from us, like, you're in good shape at that point. Did you feel that way?
I mean, I kind of I hadn't done that much research into LSAT stuff before that, so
Okay.
I felt like it was a decent score, but I was like, I don't know. But
Okay.
I've always been like pretty good at standardized tests in my life, so like I
hmm
think I'll be able to get this a bit higher. And it actually was like a little harder than I thought it was going to be, actually.
Oh,
But yeah,
interesting. Okay. So tell me about that. When did you first take that cold diagnostic?
I took it in mid mid to late June this
Mid to late
year.
June. Okay. Okay. So you go in, expectation is that, okay, I'm pretty good at these standardized tests. Good score. I can do better.
Mhm.
What did you find that
Correct.
was so difficult, right? That was kind of contrary to your expectations that you described here.
I feel like it was just like the LSAT is a test you kind of have to learn, right? So
hmm
it just took me a while to feel like I was really understanding what I was doing because I wasn't studying right at the start, right? I was just kind of taking it. I would do a practice test like 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd go to 162 and then 164 and then back to 162 and then 166. So I was making like progress, but it was slow, and I'm like, oh man, like I'm getting these questions wrong that I feel like I should be getting right. It's just
hmm
kind of like the first month or two were pretty frustrating,
Okay, so when do you find the demon in this process?
really early on. So actually, the Demon is the only tool I've used throughout
Okay.
the whole process. I after I took the diagnostic, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna study like, I want an app on my phone that I can just do questions on when I'm just, in
Uh-huh.
the car or, waiting
Yep.
for like food or whatever, right? So I just searched on the App Store like LSAT questions, and it even popped up. I just downloaded it, and then that was that.
Okay, great. So you were a subscriber to the demon while you were simultaneously doing a lot of practice tests that you shouldn't have been doing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. When did you come to the realization that what you were doing was not the right way of studying? And when did that pivot come to, what I will get to, I presume was a little bit more efficacious studying?
September. So I took it in August and September. In
Okay.
August I got a 170. September I got a 173. So
Okay.
as I'm studying for October and September, I was doing a practice question and I got it wrong. And I read the explanation. I was like kind of pissed. I was like, oh man, like how did I get this wrong? Like this question
Okay.
sucks, blah blah blah. And I see the explanation, and sometimes the explanation it says like they put like a little blurb of what some student says about the question, right?
Sure.
And the explanation, the student goes, "This question sucks." I'm like, yeah, it does suck. And then
Yeah.
whoever wrote the explanation, Nathan or Ben or whoever wrote it, was like, no, this question doesn't suck. Like every question has a very right answer and
hmm
four very wrong ones, and you just have to find what the right answer is. And it just clicked in my brain. I was like, wow, that's right. So then I started studying more intensely. I started just doing like the drilling and the time sections. I was like, I
Mhm.
just gotta like stop arguing with this test and start trying to like learn from my mistakes. That's what I did September, and then I had much better results after that.
I think that's such a great perspective because it's interesting. I tell my students that they should be making objections to the argument, but what I think is so helpful here is that you're describing, I think sometimes people can conflate two different types of arguing with the test, right? There's arguing with the test and saying, hold on, I don't think that's a good argument, and then picking an answer that reflects that. But then there's arguing with the test that the question and answer combination that you have presented are not a correct reflection of like the logic that you've set forth. And I think that students sometimes take our description of this, like, hey, be adversarial with the logic, as being adversarial with the test writ large. And that seems to be kind of what you're describing, was your approach at the beginning, or at least in specific instances with certain questions. Is that a correct characterization?
100%. Like I kind of would always get, the same kind of questions wrong, and I would
Mm,
argue with it and be like, whatever, like I, misread this, or this question just is weird, worded weirdly, or whatever. Like I'll get on the test, and I wouldn't
yeah,
really review it deeply,
sure.
and I kept making the same mistakes. Obviously, it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
until I had that moment from that one explanation blurb, I was like, wow, I really gotta reassess what I'm doing here, and then it turned around.
So here's the next question I want to ask. How did you feel about studying? Did you enjoy it? So, and let's start pre-September. Did you enjoy studying? Was it fun to you? Or does it feel like more of something that you just had to get out of the way?
I think it was somewhere in the middle. Like I never
Okay.
really felt it was like a chore. Like I kind
Okay.
of liked the act of doing the questions and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely was also looking forward to the day where I could, have the score on the record and be like, okay, I can just kind of relax from it. But it wasn't like super super frustrating. It was just like more. It was
Okay.
more frustrating in the sense of like why am I not getting better faster?
Okay. How did that attitude change when you had the kind of realization and that moment, the aha moment that you described in September?
A lot better. I mean, I started getting a lot more questions right. Like I start, ripping off the time sections, and the accuracy was way up, and then the
Mm-hmm.
practice tests were way up, and I would do the drilling, and I'd spend like 2 or 3 days on drilling, and I'd get one or two wrong in those 2 days. I was like, wow, this is great. It's really fun to get these
Yeah.
questions right now. Like this is way better. And I actually started
Yeah.
studying less. I dropped down from like 2 3 hours a day to like 45 minutes to an hour. I would just get them all right, and I'd just be chilling the rest of the day. It was
And you're
great.
good. Yeah, love that. Well, and I think that's so important because even if and for those listeners who are are hearing this and say, well, I I'm in the 150s and I didn't even start at the 160s where Steven started. I think the lesson here is that you don't need to be getting like you don't need to be scoring a 180 on your practice test to be satisfied with the fact that you're getting questions right. You can drill and get 3 questions right in an hour, and that should be a satisfying experience that you here have described, Stephen. And I think that's the important perspective. Getting questions right is fun. It's
For
way
sure.
more fun than getting them wrong, right? And even if
100
whatever
100%.
the score is at the end, just getting questions right makes the LSAT more fun. And to that point, it just becomes easier to study. And I would imagine by the time you get to October, you're probably feeling less pressure than you were feeling in like August.
100%. Like the two previous tests I took, I went in, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll pull a miracle today, right? Maybe I'll lock in today, I'll have a really good day. And I'll see. It's not what happens, right? Like all three tests I
Right.
took, it was about the score was like in the range of what I was PTing every time, right?
Oh,
So I went into October and I was like, I feel like this is gonna go a certain way. And I walked
yeah,
out feeling way better than I did the last few times.
love that. So let me ask you a question about your October administration in particular. Uh, we talked, we talked about this broadly, but as happens on basically every test cycle, uh, people come out and say, "Oh my gosh, October was the hardest administration that's ever been given." Like I know 3 people who all scored well below their practice range. Do you, you scored a 178? I would take it that you don't agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, I mean I cruised through the Reddit after, and I saw a lot of people making that comment like,
Uh
I
huh.
was 10 points below my PT average, 15 points like lower than my diagnostic. And yeah, I didn't feel that at all in the test. I actually thought maybe I was just better prepared, who knows? But of the three I took, that was the one I felt by far the best about. I thought the August one was the hardest by far. But yeah, the October, I don't think the October was anything special, to be honest,
Well,
no.
and so you're telling and you're saying here that you took 3 test administrations and all 3 of them were within your practice test range. Is that my understanding that correctly?
Yeah, every test I took, the score I eventually got was in the middle of what I was PTing before I took the test.
So in other words, you don't feel like the official test was in any way substantially different than the practice tests that you were doing that have been previously released by LSAC.
No, not at all.
Great. I love hearing that. That's my suspicion as well. I really and the thing that I always tell students is like, what, 30,000 people took the test or however many, or 20,000 people took the test, and 100 of them are mad about it on Reddit. Like that's probably not the best reliance of information coming out of
No,
that source.
it's not at all. No, not at all.
um, when you were studying, were there any questions? You did mention that some of the questions, and maybe they just were certain kind of characteristics, but what were the ones that were giving you the most trouble? It kind of sounds like you felt like there was a specific question that was.
I was not super strong on like kind of the what Dima called like the open questions. So like
Oh,
a
okay.
weekend, a strength in those kind of
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
because I would often get between two, and I would talk
Mm,
myself out of the right answer, right? I'd always
okay,
be like,
sure.
oh, this is too straightforward or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'd perform these crazy mental gymnastics to justify this wrong answer. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until September that I really realized like I gotta stop doing that. Like like if I gotta do mental gymnastics to justify an answer, it's not looking good. You know, it's really
Okay.
should be something that
How
jumps out at
how
me.
did you how did you make that change? And maybe describe a little bit more kind of that realization and the process that really allowed you to make the jump from September to October.
Yeah, it really was all that one explanation verb. And when the guy when whoever wrote the thing said, there's one right answer here, you just gotta find it. And
Hmm.
I was like, man, this makes sense. Like four of these answers are gonna be so much like measurably, markedly worse than the right one. Like you really shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be stuck between two here. If I'm stuck between two, I'm doing something wrong, right? Like this
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. There's not going to be one answer 98% right and one answer 100% right. Like it's going to be very wrong, very right.
Right.
Once
Right.
I kind of internalized that, I was able to think to myself like I got to just look for reasons to cross off the wrong ones here, like
Mm.
instead of trying to justify them all to be right. And that really, I'm actually shot at my score.
We kind of describe the alternative to narrowing it down to two is not is more often narrowing, like eliminating all five and then going back. Is that something that you found in practice as well?
Yeah, I did better when I wasn't trying to narrow it down to two,
Hmm.
100%. When I would try to narrow it down to two, I just found myself getting kind of caught up in it, right? Because there's
Yeah.
nothing in the answer choice that really is going to help you find the answer. It's really, they're just
Right.
meant to
Yeah.
confuse you,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that take and that framing of it. That's the phrasing that I use for my students is that there's an 80% chance that that answer is a liar, right? Like,
100%,
and
100%.
so
And then,
you
yeah,
should be very skeptical.
yeah. And I
Um,
think the other thing is like, think somewhere between in September, I got lot better at predicting.
mm,
So maybe before I would kind of do it, but I was like, this kind of is time consuming and
uh-huh,
whatever else.
uh-huh.
But once I started really practicing it more and I got really, really good at it, that obviously helped me avoid the two answer pitfall I was running into before.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I you describe kind of that shift. So, and I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure that it's explicit. What do you feel like made you better at predictions?
Getting better at identifying the conclusion and premises in the passage,
Mm,
100%. Once I got really good at that and able to spot it really quickly, it was so much easier to kind of find the gap in the argument or the flaw in the argument and make the objections to the conclusion. And once I was able to do that, it got a lot easier. Before
do
I
you?
kind of just I would stare at it,
Uh huh.
kind of half brain do it, and then
Yep.
go to the answer choices. Wasn't really the best way to do it, obviously.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I know I have a particular method that I find is helpful, but how did you? It's difficult to say like you just flip a switch and go, oh yeah, now I recognize the conclusions. Um, what was that process like? Did you have any things that you did that kind of helped ensure that you were properly identifying the conclusion and like doing that work before you move into the question?
I started to ask myself like, is this being supported by something?
Mm.
If it's not, if it's not, it can't be the
It's
conclusion,
it's
right?
not the
It
conclusion.
has to be it. That's the main thing I did. I was just like there's it can't there's not going to be a single statement out here that just floating in the wind is going to be a conclusion. It's not going to be it, right? It has to,
Yeah,
the argument is sequential. It leads up to something.
yeah,
Find that thing, and then you're good to go.
love it. Uh, I kind of go in out of order of the order that I tend to ask people, but I just had you'd mentioned something that I was super excited to talk about with the LSAT. I am curious to know what prompted you to decide that the LSAT and law school is the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, so I've been involved in cryptocurrency since college, and I've
Okay.
kind of done a lot of writing, a lot of entrepreneurship stuff,
Yep.
and anyone who knows crypto knows it's pretty intertwined with law,
Hmm.
right? So especially when I did work with startups, um, it's difficult to get a lot of stuff done because the law is so hazy and in a lot of cases
Sure.
restrictive. So I thought this could be something I could do to contribute to an industry that I really, really love and in a productive way.
Yeah. When you look at law schools, knowing that you have a very specific industry uh, thing that you're looking for, what are you kind of looking for in a law school?
Main things I'm looking for in a law school, well, beside like obviously the stuff like cost, but
Sure.
beside that, yeah, the main thing I'm looking for in law school, like I a strong tech tradition,
Okay.
Some like a strong tech clinic is something I'm going to look for. And then also I like because I've worked in tech for so long, like there's an ethos of kind of freedom of speech and expression and not being afraid to air controversial ideas. So
Hmm.
any law school that I'm interested in, I kind of want to see that same commitment to free speech and free expression.
Sure. In your work, I worked in healthcare before law school and had a lot of opportunities to interact with attorneys in what is also, in a different way, very, very legal saturated space, right? There are always different laws governing healthcare, billing, etc. I'm curious to what extent, you're describing these startup clients that are having difficulty understanding what the law is and thus, what they should be doing. What is your exposure to the attorneys who do this kind of work?
I've interacted with a couple of them through my
Hmm.
work, but honestly, it's not saturated that same way. There's a
Yeah.
very big gap there, right? I mean,
Hmm.
because even though it's a 15-year-old industry, it's still nascent in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but for most of its existence, it's been, actively, I don't know if the word is prosecuted, but actively kind of targeted by the law.
Yeah.
So it's
I
kind of it's always been an
there's
easy
an
gray
inherent
zone.
skepticism.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of the lawyers right now in crypto are actually more focused on lobbying, for example.
Oh.
So there's 2024 election is a huge push of lobbying in the crypto industry.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of them are involved right now. There's not too many of them focusing on what I kind of want to focus on.
Which is helping startups and companies navigate the legal restrictions that are currently in place and as they evolve.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your background in? You said you were well, I guess like your undergraduate degree. You mentioned that you were involved in it through your undergraduate. What was your degree in?
I majored in political science from Haverford College,
Okay. From which college?
Haverford. So it's in the
Haverford. I
Philadelphia suburbs.
got it. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you'll have to. I have no doubt that that's a school that all of our listeners are like, Josh, you're an idiot. You should know this.
No, no, actually, I'd be surprised if more than a handful do. It's
Oh,
it's a
really?
small
Okay.
school.
Okay. I was
It's a
worried I
very
was
small
just being
school.
ignorant over
No,
here.
no,
So,
no, I get it all the
okay.
time.
Okay.
People are
Here's
like,
the
the
question. You said
Harvard?
it's a
I'm like,
very
no,
small
Haverford.
school.
It's I think my graduating class had a little over 400.
You're close. You're close. I think I've got you beat. My graduating class was 320.
Oh yeah, you got me beat for sure.
So I got you beat, but not by much. When it's funny when I hear people talk about small schools, I'm like, oh, okay, like how small is your school actually? You went to a small school like I did. That's uh
Small liberal arts school. Yep,
yeah,
small
yeah,
liberal arts school.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I went to go do speech and debate and it was a great time. I mean, I loved studying liberal arts subjects, so that was a lot of fun. Um cool. I love hearing other people who go to tiny universities like that. That's a lot of fun. Uh so you kind of described this idea of the four right answers or four four wrong answers,
Definitely
one
not
right
full
answer.
right. Yeah,
Definitely not four right. Definitely not four
definitely
right.
not.
Um, uh, Other than that, what would you say for people listening right now? Biggest piece of advice you're like this is the thing, whether it's study schedule, whether it's attitude, whether it's what would you say, like, this is the one thing that I wish somebody had said to me day one? Because sometimes that answer might not be the one right, four wrong. Sometimes you need time before you hear that and that really sinks in. So starting out day one, what do you tell people that you kind of wish somebody had said to you day one?
Yeah, no matter how good you are, how smart you are before you think you do this, like you have to really humble yourself and like I said, don't argue with this test, right? If you
Hmm.
want to learn from this test, you have to recognize that when you get it wrong, you got it wrong for a reason, right? It's nothing the test did to you. It's nothing that um, the context did to you around you. Like you just got it wrong. Like you got to learn from that. And I think if someone told me that earlier, I think I would have been done in like September. So I wish I knew that first, but once I stopped
Okay.
arguing with the test and humbled myself, everything got so much better.
Well, and you the way you phrase it, I think a lot of people say, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this phrase, learn the test, right? In other words, to learn how to do it. Learn from the test. I think it's just such a, like, it's very apt, right? In the way that we need to approach this kind of changing of and learning to read in a way that I'll confess I never. I mean, and this is a great example. Let me. I thought I was about to. I have a great question that I know my answer. Did you ever read for your liberal arts political science degree in the same style that you read for the LSAT?
No, I took some logic classes in college, so I did a little bit of it, but
Hmm.
the logic classes in college were more kind of the gimmicky diagramming stuff, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it really wasn't like that helpful because I never diagrammed because I'm a demon guy. So I never
That's right.
diagrammed.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, but
Those who know
no,
know.
no. But yeah, I mean, for college reading, like you get assigned like the 30-page article, you kind of
Yep.
skim through it and take the notes on the abstract and the
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
conclusion, and then you're good to go. This is a whole different kind of slow reading, understanding kind of thing that I hadn't done before.
I haven't say I never, and I like, and I'm sure in the same boat for you, like liberal arts, political science, like probably one of the more intensive reading majors. Nothing like reading for the LSAT. Boy,
No,
was I
no.
not prepared.
And I'm actually grateful that I even did the reading I did, right? Because I
Sure.
graduated right before ChatGPT came out. Now it's like I kind of feel bad for some of the kids in school now. It's like you kind of just if I had it back then, I would have used it. I would have thrown the paper into ChatGPT and had me spit out some bullet points, right? I would have done that, but
Yeah.
that's definitely not going to help on this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. That's that is so true. This kind of reading is the antithesis to the ChatGPT solutions. So even if you're not doing that
100%.
kind of reading for your degree, go read some news articles and just read them carefully and closely. Like if you're not studying and just listening. That's such a great point. Awesome. Well, Steven, this was a blast. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And congratulations again on an absolutely killer LSAT score.
No, thank you so much, Josh, and thank you to the whole team. I literally couldn't have done it without him. It's the only tool I used. So it's a great choice by me back in July to download that app for sure.
Oh, we appreciate it for sure. If you have an LSAT success story that you'd like to share or have any questions that you'd like to be answered, you can email in at daily@lsatdemon.com. Thanks for listening.